Hey, fanboys, hey, fangirls, Carnell Holley here, back yet again with my co-host.
Dwain Worrell here in LA, binging and banging. Good to be connected with my boy Carnell.
Bing bang. Okay, we're back yet again. I am excited. Um, we have something in store for you guys today, and it's a little unorthodox because it's one of those things where when I saw it, I'm like, I gotta get Dwayne's. I gotta get his opinion on this because it's just like this is not really his cup of tea,
Not
but
really.
I don't know.
Not really.
I don't.
Not really my thing. But you know what? This is cool because not only are we talking about a unique show, we actually have a first time ever guest on our
Oh no
show.
no. Well, no. Actually, no. She's been a guest. It was when you were away,
Ah,
which would explain why you're
yeah.
mistaken on this one. I do apologize. Because
Yeah.
he's been working. Okay, that he's been working. There is a reason why he was absent, and I'm just like, man, I got to fill a space for my boy. It's a placeholder. No love lost. I'm just like, well, crap, man. I'm just like what I gotta do. So. Let do a quick introduction here. It is the lovely Miss Renee Cooper.
Renee.
I know her from MomoCon, but she okay. Just a heads up, just in case if you don't remember, she has been a guest on the show. She was the guest for the Steven Universe show,
Mm.
our fourth episode. And this is why I had to bring her back because I'm just like when I saw it on Netflix, I'm just like, why does this rhyme with Steven Universe? I'm like, let me hit up Renee. Let me let me let her know just in case because she puts me on stuff. I put her on stuff, and I'm just like when I sent her the message, I'm just like she was like yo, is this it's out already? I'm like, oh, she must know about this. Like, oh, okay, well, all right. But Renee, please introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Renee Cooper, and I am a 30 plus year old cartoon enthusiast, and that includes American and anime. I actually am the director of the animation track for Dragon Con, as well as volunteer at other conventions and really just love cartoons. So, yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Yeah. Very impressive, very talented, very happy to have you here, Renee. Both of us.
So, I think my first time on your show, Carnell, was at Rangers Stop and Pop, and it's now got to be like 3 or 4 years ago. I feel like it was the year that the entire hotel caught Legionnaires or something
Oh,
afterwards, so it was pretty exciting year pre-pandemic. But yeah, you've always been, you've come to MomoCon, and since I'm media for MomoCon and help with that, it's always good to see you there as well.
Mm.
oh, yeah. Likewise, can't wait to come back again. My thing is, I watched the episode. Um, I'm brand new to it. Dwayne's brand new to it. I
Yeah.
before I get into my spill, I need to hear I need to hear what Dwayne has to say on this. Like for first out, let me know what you thought.
Let me jump in. Let me jump in, and I'm putting on kitty gloves because it's kind of a kitty show. So I'm gonna talk about the show, and you know what I when I first heard Carnell ask me about watching this show, I was kind of like Bee and Puppycat. What the hell? Like, this does not sound like my cup of tea. Bee and Puppycat. It sounds like something that my nieces and nephews would watch at 5 years old. But I was like, no, 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 this is Carnell. I know he wouldn't have me watching something like this. He has a new daughter. Maybe he's been watching too many of these shows. So I type it in the computer and I look at the animation, I'm like, wow, this is really a show for 3-year-olds. Um, so I sighed. I turned on Netflix and I started watching, and I was actually pleasantly surprised. The show has a comedic tilt. It is slightly more mature than it looks. I would say that the age range is actually probably in the teens. There is some semi-adult humor in it, um, and I found myself smiling and chuckling a couple times. I think I was again pleasantly surprised because my expectations were so low.
Oh man.
I was expecting something for children, and it was not. It was sort of a teen show. So in that aspect, I was pleasantly surprised. That being said, kitty gloves slipping off of my uh, fingers right now, but I don't think it's the type of show I would come back and watch another episode of. Um, I saw it, like Julius Caesar said. I came, I saw, I was conquered, and it's fun. It has its audience. I don't know where they are,
Oh wow.
but somewhere out there, it has its audience, and it's just not for me. It's not my style. It's not my thing. But respect to everyone who enjoys it, who loves it, and yeah, Bee and Puppycat. That might be the last time I say those words in
Dang.
a sentence.
I mean, as soon as I hear it, I am immediately brought to the adorable, glittery, bubbly, magical girl robot situation that I remember seeing from YouTube. And of course, the really adorable puppy cat character that is neither puppy nor cat nor nor animal really if you watch through it. Um, and of course, it just sounds very cutesy and magical girly and pink and fluffy, which is what it is. So, I was definitely excited that they were going to expand on the story. And of course, in true, I'm going to call it new millennium 2020s fashion in cartoons and storytelling, I figured it was going to be something that was additionally more dark, tied into the dark, mysterious aspect of the original series. It wasn't just going to be a cutesy show for kids because the creator definitely didn't make it seem like that's the initial end game. There's always going to be something else to it that makes it more interesting um, to watch in its entirety.
Um, Go ahead, Carnell.
Oh. Oh man. Oh, okay, fanboys and fangirls. We both saw the very first episode. So, the episode that we are referring to is entitled "Again for the First Time." B feels a little dejected when she's fired from her job, but then a
And
oh,
can I cut in if you don't
not at all.
mind? Again for the first. For me, it was again for the
First,
last
yeah,
time.
you
Again
just
for the
had
last time.
you just
So
had to put slide
yeah,
that.
just drop,
It
sprinkle it
just
in
made
there.
sense. It was just
Sprinkle.
like I see an opening. I see an opening.
Yeah.
Oh, good. The description. Oh shoot, that is so funny. B feels a little dejected when she's fired from her job, but then a cute little cat, or is it a dog, falls out of the sky right onto her umbrella, which is so funny because I'm like, well, that's where you get the whole puppy cat. And it's just like we can't tell if this is a puppy or a cat, but I mean, it is a cute creature. Um, like I watching it, I legit thought, I mean, because of the character designs, I legit thought that she was a little girl and they were just playing at this house. I mean, I know it said that it was like a cat cafe, but she was hired, she was getting paid, and not to spoil the episode, but she gets fired for reasons that you'll see when you watch the episode. But it's just like okay, that was unexpected. I'm just like thinking, like almost like Hello Kitty. Like I'm thinking Hello Kitty, and then I later find out that Hello Kitty is not a kitty. It's actually a toddler cosplay or something. There is some character
Yeah.
designs like the backstory of this character, which is so funny. Um, but but the yeah. It was just some stuff that I was reading about. I was just like, oh wow, so like we have a child that is the mascot for this company. I'm like, all right. Um, but it says that Bee, an unemployed woman, is living a normal life until a grumpy companion named Puppycat arrives. Follow Bee and Puppycat as they travel between reality and fishbowl space. Now, I mean this series, the episode has a slice of life feel to it. Like any type of anime, but looking at it, um, it was reminiscent of Steven Universe, in which
Okay.
Renee, that that's the reason why I hit up Renee just to give her a heads up, just like, oh man, this might be something that she's interested in. And so I'm just like, all right, well, I don't know the creator, or I mean, what is this? And so I'm trying to figure out, as far as, like, is there a connection to Steven Universe? Because the creator of the show is Natasha Allegri. Forgive me if I mispronounce the name, but she is known for what's the show? Adventure Time. And so looking at it, I'm like, okay, I do see some designs that are reminiscent of Adventure Time, and then I'm like, okay, I see it. But looking more into it, I try finding more information on it, and then I'm seeing like this 2013, and I'm just like, oh, so this is not new, so it's been out, so um something with YouTube, and then I see things with Netflix. So Renee, Miss Subject Expert on this, we need you. Like you usually school me on things, put me up on some good stuff. I usually try to put you up on some good stuff. You know what I'm saying? So with this, if possible, convince Dwayne to continue down this rabbit hole, because I'm going to continue down it. There's an interest in it. Uh, there's it because I watched the episode, and what really I think really got me was when Puppycat is telling this story, that, like, oh, there's layers to this. Almost like he's telling this story as if it's a bedtime story, but it seems like, wait a minute, is he the character in this story that he's telling, that eventually this monster comes out of nowhere. Again, not trying to spoil too much of the episode, but he becomes this weapon that that reminds me of this anime Monster Rancher with Mochi, and then there's this Mochi cannon. So you just give you some visual aid on where my head was at. But Renee, please.
So I had marginally heard that Bee and Puppycat was coming to Netflix, and when you reached out to get um, my opinion on it, I was even more driven to check it out, push it to the top of the list, because I was really unsure of how it was going to go. I actually had watched all of the Bee and Puppycat series on YouTube again many years ago. I think its original release was, oh wait, like 2013. Oh my gosh. So this show is almost 10 years old, and now Netflix has it and was making something from it. And um, I was surprised, but I don't think I should have been, that it was going to be so different. I just couldn't imagine what more they were going to add to the story when the original run on YouTube was like 5 episodes, and they were very short. So when you said to go ahead and watch it, I was like, or asked if I'd watch it, I was like, there's obviously something crazy going on in here that I should just go ahead and make the time for. And I did. Um, so I actually haven't watched Adventure Time yet. So I am absolutely unsure if there's any sort of cameo or connection between the two. I just know that the world that is created in Bee and Puppycat is about as crazy, cute, ridiculous, dark as I have seen and known and understand the Adventure Time worlds to be. She also, the creator also seems to have a real big love for connecting like fantasy and technology. So there's like a character that's the temp bot, and that seems very close to like a BMO sort of situation, just bigger, a bigger face situation. Um, so I think there's definitely a an homage to or inspiration between the two. I figure that with most creators who start in one show, they're able to give a lot of what they want for the original show, and in this case, if it was Adventure Time, but maybe not tell the entire story that they want to tell, or have a couple of stories inside of them that they want to move forward with. So I can definitely see the inspiration and the connection, but I mean, the one thing that turned me off about Adventure Time was just how weird and not cute the characters were, like the villains and some of the monsters and things. And again, this was a turn of animation for me particularly because it was like the introduction of this new Cal art style from back in like the early 2000s, and I just like wasn't as on board as I have been now with more shows that are like that. But Bee and Puppycat immediately was like pink and fluffy and adorable, like Madoka Magica style, you know, Sailor Moon esque, if you will, this cotton candy sort of world, and with this really silly main character that I immediately associated with because she was like an adult woman, girl situation, loving cats and wearing cute outfits. So yeah, I think it's very similar. There's some like Princess Bubblegum aspect to this. Um, there's definitely some like creepy dark moments, but this has a like again that vision of bubbly goodness instead of the more stylized Adventure Time. Ah, okay. Sorry, I almost forgot about you mentioned baby, and again, no spoilers, but like there's a few baby mentions, so I was like, which baby are we talking about? Yeah, so episode one is very similar to episode one. The Netflix episode one was very similar to episode one of the so in the adorable musical story that Puppy Cat tells, you're supposed to feel like Puppy Cat is talking about himself, and he is in fact the outlaw, as they're calling him, that turned into a monster, and then the monster is Puppy Cat, but he's adorable. He's not a scary monster, but he's still not whatever rendition of human it looked like the outlaw and the princess, quote unquote, were. So, and then immediately after that, there's a battle sequence and a character that actually does show up a little bit later for some possible exposition. But I think they're supposed to gather that this dude is kind of under a spell and just sort of dealing with that. And you know, B is like, "Oh, is that why you're here? Cool. Nothing weird about that." And sort of just continues on with with their different adventures that they have. So yeah, I think the audience and me particularly, I was prepared to hopefully get some more understanding about that because like okay, who's this princess that he was trying to run away with? Who are the warlocks? I really do think that based on from I have to go back and look at the YouTube show series, but I think that they changed some of those things around. I think instead of an outlaw, he was a prince, and I think instead of warlocks, they were just soldiers. So if it's a new audience looking, they're just like, oh, like is he a bad guy and this is his punishment? And what are the warlocks? What kind of a situation is that? And do we have to look out for them later? So yeah, it just kind of sets up for this like fantasy magical space, um, without giving too much away for what's to come in the future.
Maybe it is worth a deeper look.
I mean, yeah, yeah. I mean, it's not. I think you're taking it at face value. Like this is good stuff. It's again, there's layers. There's
Yeah,
layers. You just can't have the whole thing and be like, all right, there's nothing to look forward to. So peel back the layers.
that's true. I guess something happened to me during my childhood where I lost that sense of adventure. Sorry, Renee. Renee, I do have my own question. So first of all, thank you again for coming in and being a part of this. I do think that this animation style is very unique. It's very playful. It's almost childlike in nature. But will do you think that this animation style keeps certain viewers at bay? Does it keep people like myself who might be, who judge a book by its cover? Does it hamper certain audiences from even starting that first?
Um, I think that it is possible that older audiences who are not familiar with the original run of the show would see this and think it's something for kids. But I also feel like it if the older person, if I say the older person, like I said, 30 plus years here, if you're familiar with things like Madoka Magica or Made in Abyss or even Steven Universe, and how that turned from like the cutest thing you've ever seen to the darkest, what is my life? I need to call my mom and my dad and apologize. Um, you know, you have to maybe assume that there's more to this than just the cuteness. I feel like it's more of a disservice and maybe a um, a bad practice to assume that something that looks cute is only for kids and then have your kids watch it and your kids are like, what is happening here? I am so like I love you, dad, never leave me, or like having a moment because there are weird things that can end up happening. So yeah, it is definitely possible to think this is for kids and to look at it for kids. And I think maybe it's meant for a younger audience now that is used to shows like Steven Universe that will potentially get a little dark and tell more of a story than just, you know, what we probably remember watching in the 90s, or things that came from the 70s and 80s that were just like Shira Barbie dolls, going on adventure, and every episode is the same, but they just go on a different adventure. Like this actually has a deeper story and certain aspects that if you watch it, you can make those connections. And I think that's awesome for younger audiences to be able to have shows like this. But if you're used to watch, and no shame in this, but like if you're gonna be watching something like One Piece or He Man, and like that's your go to, like, yeah, you're probably not gonna pick this one up immediately. But this is not Arcane or Castlevania, and it's not that level of dark either. This is a cute thing that also just has some dark elements to it, but it's just part of the story. So yeah, if you're a parent and you're just not used to that, I guess, like, I don't know. I would be when I have kids. I'm gonna have to watch like all the cartoons because I would be nervous that my kid would see something that I just say, oh, it's a cartoon, it's fine, and then it's like way too deep and emotional for them to just be watching. But on the other hand, like if a child did watch this, like someone under the age of 7, I don't think that they would be scarred. I just think that there would be like questions that you may be, want to answer, um, or not. Like it just depends. I think that that's pretty cool aspect of the storytelling, but I do think that these are shows that are made for adults to be watched by all ages.
Interesting. Very interesting. Um, yeah.
That is
Well,
true. Dwayne, like, yeah, you're hitting that on the head with the whole like comic books that a particular art style. It's just like I like this artist,
right.
but the character designs are just kind of a little too off-putting, and I get where you're coming from with that, because it seemed a bit too I'm forgetting the female genre with the magical girl, because it has the magical girl elements to it.
Yes.
But I mean, I used to watch Sailor Moon. You know what I'm saying?
No, I don't know what you're saying because I've
No,
never seen it. No.
you
Uh,
you didn't watch it growing up? No,
no, that wasn't really
you.
my style. More of a Dragon Ball guy myself, but
I mean, I watched that too.
true,
I mean,
true.
you got to find balance.
That's you know what? That's what I lack in life is balance. Thank you. Thank you. Sorry, Renee. So sorry. I do have a follow up question to that question. Being that this animation style is again that unique, almost playful, childlike animation style, is it then deceptive to have this animation style? Young children might be watching it, and then when they're watching it, there are more mature themes and storylines within it. So is this animation style then deceptive to younger viewers?
I don't necessarily think it's deceptive. Like I said, I think that it's cute and a child could watch it. But if you think back to even stuff like Sailor Moon or Dragon Balls, like there was stuff happening in it. Like there was a whole part where like Bulma, I think, takes her clothes off to try to like intimidate some dude. They always had like panties. Like there was that the pig that always like he wished for Bulma's panties. Like there's stuff that's always gonna be put into animation that's gonna be like, whoa, is this for kids? I can't believe it. Um, so I think that it's a wonderful time that we live in where animators and people who are our ages or who are like, have grown up watching some of the older styles or reading comics or reading manga are able to put this into animation so that we can finally see it, um, animated and on screen. But I don't think that this like would if I made it sound like that before, I don't think this would make kids like stressed out. I think it would be a really cute fantasy experience for them, and whether or not they paid attention to some of the nuances that were going on, I mean that could just be based off what the kid knows. Um, but based off of like my interpretation of and I don't have kids, so like I'm just watching this from my standpoint. But I would show my 8-year-old niece this if she thought it was pretty and not have any issues with it. So yeah, I'm trying to think of something that is deceptive like that. Like Made in Abyss, the anime Made in Abyss is deceptive. I would not have a child watch that. There's like bodily fluid and like concussions and like all this stuff that happens in it. So like, but it looks gorgeous and adorable. So if it came to anime, I would say like, maybe not. Um, but this is definitely not one of those. This one I think kids would be able to watch and find pretty pleasant.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. All right, Carnell, I'll shift it over to you. Do you have any follow up questions?
No, I mean, Renee pretty much nailed it on the head for me. So I'm interested in watching all 16 episodes of this show.
Same.
See where it ends. I recently spoken to a buddy of mine who's seen the show. Just to temper expectations, he felt like it was uh um it made it to to the second act. It was very interesting, but the third act fell short.
Mm.
So, and we've been just trying to gauge my expectations. I'm like, it seems legit. I might not be as hardcore as a friend of mine that we were just talking about it. But I'm like, okay, I can see how some stories do wind up like that. You're just like the whole build up. It's like, oh man, this is good, but then sometimes it falls flat in the third act, and I'm just like, all right,
Yeah.
there's been plenty of shows, movies that do under deliver.
Oh, okay. I'd have to separate it then into acts because I feel like the original YouTube run was again much shorter. Each episode was shorter, and um, like the quote unquote ending of that particular series um, was pretty much, I think, what they explained in like episode two. So it's like they move faster and they explain a little bit more in in Netflix, but then like there's a broader explanation around like around Puppycat's basically like origin that is almost like a blip on the radar in terms of all of the episodes. So because the episode's like 30 minutes, 20, 30 minutes long, there is a lot of just like cute, random slice of life things that are happening. Mm. Yeah, so the YouTube version has much shorter episodes and um, has, see, let me start over. The YouTube version has much shorter episodes and also less episodes. So I definitely feel like they elongated the Netflix version. So there's a lot of, I don't want to say filler because it's also telling the same story, but this is a lot of the story is them kind of going on those missions, and then the slice of life aspect of what's going on in the home world, like around their house between those key main characters. Um, so I think it's really cute and silly, but there's only really like one or two parts that really push the story forward, um, in terms of giving any answers on like, okay, what really is this? Like, who is Puppy Cat? Who or what is Bee? You know, let's get some answers on that. And so there's definitely like a lot of just show to watch before you get major answers, and then the end of the season. I don't know if they're supposed to make a season two or if this is sort of like the ending. I hope they make a season two. That'd be wonderful. Um, but the ending sort of like gives you a few answers, but doesn't answer the ones that you had the questions for. So, but it does kind of come full circle without giving things away, like who characters are. You can kind of piece together who certain characters are or who certain new characters are, um, and what generally happened to even create the strange fantasy mystery world that we're looking at. So I will say that it pieces things together, but of course it does just increase the amount of questions going forward. And I haven't looked up any like wikis of it because I kind of just want to make my own assumptions until I figure out if there's going to be another season or at least like a comic book or something. Um, but I do feel like it is a long, not long. It's what 16ish episodes. Like I was sad when it ended because I was like, oh, I have more questions now, but it was still very cute to go through. And a couple episodes I went back and rewatched to see if I can uh, make some other connections with characters and see if like, oh, did they mention this was mentioned here, or this person looks a lot like this other person, so maybe that's a connection. But again, I don't know if I would say it felt short. I think they are hopefully setting up for an addition to that story, um, that seems very similar to probably what the creator wanted to do in the YouTube series. Just what I'm finding with a lot of these creators who make stuff for YouTube and then it gets like bought out and they have to like work. They get to work on their bigger story Like they still have to kind of cram as much as possible into that first story because there's no guarantee that YouTube's gonna get it, or Netflix. No guarantee like Netflix or a bigger channel is going to get it and pay for them to do uh, 8 hours of content. But I think that they did well to give justice to a story that you know they wanted to share the first time and just didn't have the timing or the funds to do it.
Yeah, and I will say this, Renee. The way you spoke about the show, the things that you explained throughout this podcast have sort of given me a second push to maybe check out a couple more episodes. I don't know if I'll go all 16, but I will give a couple more shot and see what's in store for these characters and this story with a very unique name that I won't mention again.
There's no shame.
A little bit. I'm
There's
feeling a little bit.
no
I don't know why. I'm feeling a little bit of that shit.
how Bee and Puppycat.
Look.
I
When I'm
believe
at the basketball court with my guys, and they're all like, "Yeah, man, yeah, you checked out that Game of Thrones, huh, man? I've been watching the game. Dwayne, what you been watching? Bee and Puppycat. Like it just doesn't have that same, that same punch as a
There,
Game
oh,
of Thrones or something like that. You know what I mean?
that. Oh shoot! They remind. Okay, that reminds because there's certain titles. There are certain titles that until you speak them out loud, you just don't know how bad they are until you actually say it out loud. Because it's like I remember the anime. Is it wrong to pick up girls in pick up a girl? Is it a girl in dungeons or pick up girls in a dungeon? Um, Dang, I gotta look that up again.
Is it wrong to try to pick up girls in a dungeon?
Yeah, and I said that in a crowd to a fellow anime fan. I was just like, oh man, that sounds
Doesn't
so
come
bad.
off quite right. Yeah, doesn't really
It
roll off
doesn't.
the tongue.
It doesn't. Renee, do you have any titles that I can't think of at the top that have that same feel? Just like yeah, when you say it out loud, it sounds so bad, but it's not what you think. It's really not what you think. It's just a title that really doesn't like necessarily shape the the theme of the show more or less, but I mean it is what it is. It's a Japanese show. They make weird stuff. Awesome.
Hmm.
Things that sound questionable but are actually pretty good. Um, that one that's hard because it depends on what people are unsure about. I would say, oh, wow, hold on. Let me how to pull up a thing. What have I been watching lately? Uh, I mean, I've definitely been watching Made in Abyss, and that doesn't really sound like anything until you see it, and then you're like, oh, and then you read it, you're like, ah. Um, so I would say that one is concerning. Madoka Magica has always been one that I bring up because, again, it sounds and it looks like a magical girl show, but and it is kind of, but it's actually not about. It is not a magical girl theme. It is like a psychological horror theme. Uh, so there's that. School Live is I watched some of it, but I read all of it. And School Live sounds like a performance, like a live anime where the girls like, is it School Live? Yeah. Um, where like the girls perform live or whatever. But it's actually a zombie survival horror manga series. So that kind of like, I mean, that's why I read it, but it was interesting to see like the cover because it's like about these girls who live at school because there is an apocalypse outside. Um, and they make it like a game sort of club where they're like, yeah, we're the club that lives at school, and you're like, why? And then later you're like, oh damn. Oh damn. And then I guess I will throw in something I haven't. Um, oh wait. Sorry, I know I'm gonna pause, but like there was something on the tip of my tongue that I watched, and I can't remember if it was Disney or Netflix or something else. Amphibia. I guess I'll throw that one in. Amphibia was actually really good, but similar to um how Bee and Puppycat has like a lot of the same, like it's very episodic in the beginning, um, but it turns into this really incredible magical girl isekai, um, and I just like I wasn't expecting it. Um, oh, Centaur World. Centaur World is also very much like that. It has some. It starts out looking like Korra Avatar sort of animation, and then it goes into really silly slapstick animation and storytelling. But it gets really, really good, pretty dark, still very silly, but um, really good to watch. If you're a music nerd, I would also watch it, like a chorus sort of nerd. So those are, I think, some that like really stand out as like you would probably be off put by them, but then when you actually watch them, you're like, oh dang, this, and I'm possibly crying now, and I should probably call my dad, tell him I love him, sort of things like that.
But just to wrap things up, again, thank you, Renee,
Thank
for
you,
joining
Renee.
us on the show.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for having me. If you guys want to chat me up about other things happening, I am at Renee for Atlanta on Instagram and Twitter. And I don't necessarily talk to a lot of new people on Facebook, so you can find me in those other places though.
Renee, thank you for coming in. Thank you for being a part of
Thank
this.
you, thank you.
I apologize for not being there the first time, but better late than never.
This is true.
Yeah. Fanboys,
All right,
fangirls.
fan.
I know that's his line. I'm taking it from him tonight.
Hey,
I
hey,
appreciate
run with it.
I appreciate y'all listening in, and stay tuned for our next episode of Writers Roulette.